Story 1. It was a brutal autumn evening in a quiet suburb outside Seattle. Rain hammered the roof like thousands of tiny fists, turning the streets into rivers. My parents had driven to a charity gala in the city, but the storm escalated so fiercely that highways closed, and they ended up crashing at an old college friend's place in Bellevue. They called the landline 3 times, voices thick with guilt, begging forgiveness for abandoning me. "Just lock everything, sweetie," Mom repeated. "Front door, back door, every window. Keep the porch light burning. Close the curtains tight." I rolled my eyes behind the receiver. I was practically an adult in my mind. Alone time meant raiding the cookie jar and binge-watching cartoons until dawn. I sprawled on the worn leather sofa, remote in hand, sugar buzzing through my veins from stolen chocolate bars. The storm raged outside, but inside felt cozy, safe. Eventually, exhaustion won. I drifted off with the TV murmuring late-night reruns. When my eyes snapped open, the screen glowed blue in standby mode. The room had turned frigid, unnaturally so. My breath puffed visible clouds. Shivering, I sat up, heart thudding with that instinctive child fear of the unknown. Mom's instructions echoed in my head like a warning bell. If I ignored them and something happened, I'd never hear the end of it. Groaning, I padded around the darkened house in socks, clicking deadbolts, twisting window latches, drawing every blind until the world outside vanished behind fabric. Everything sealed, yet the chill persisted, seeping into my bones like icy fingers. I pressed palms to glass, solid, no drafts. Maybe the furnace died in the storm. Logical enough for an 8-year-old. I climbed the creaky stairs to my bedroom, the only place that still felt like mine. My window overlooked the backyard, where rain lashed branches against the panes in furious rhythm. Lightning cracked the sky open every few minutes, thunder rolling so deep it vibrated my rib cage. I burrowed under covers, trying to ignore the growing unease. Sleep refused to return. Instead, a new sound wormed into my ears. Slow, deliberate creaks. Not the house settling, not wind. Something rhythmic, almost careful, coming from downstairs. My pulse quickened. I told myself it was nothing, just imagination running wild. But the creaks continued, closer now, like weight shifting on floorboards. I sat bolt upright, straining to listen past the storm. Another flash, room bright as day for a heartbeat. My gaze locked on the closet door. It stood ajar. Just a sliver, but unmistakable. I'd closed it earlier when changing into pajamas. My stomach plummeted. Something had moved it from inside. Panic surged, hot and electric. I didn't scream. Some primal part knew noise would invite worse. Instead, I slipped from bed silently, bare feet silent on carpet, and crept toward the hallway. Every step felt endless, legs heavy with terror. I flew downstairs, heart slamming against ribs, and slid beneath the heavy oak dining table, curling into the smallest ball possible. Tears came then, silent and burning. My parents were miles away. No one could save me. Time stretched into agony. Then, footsteps, not normal, erratic, lurching, like someone drunk or injured hopping downstairs. Closer, closer. They entered the dining room. I held my breath until lungs screamed. From my hiding spot, 2 feet shuffled into view, bare, caked in mud and rainwater, skin pale and sickly yellowish under grime. Deep gashes crisscrossed calves and ankles, as if torn through brambles. The legs trembled, unsteady, grotesque. A metallic clank shattered the silence. A heavy wrench tumbled from unseen hands, skittering across hardwood inches from my face. I bit my lip until it bled to stifle a sob. If they bent down, but the figure paused, frozen. Seconds dragged into eternity. Then the feet shuffled onward, stumbling through the kitchen, the hallway, The front door groaned open, wind roaring in, then slammed shut. Silence returned, broken only by rain. I stayed curled there until dawn paled the sky. Eventually, I crawled out, retrieved the wrench with shaking fingers, and hid it in the garage trash. When my parents returned, sunny and apologetic, I said nothing. Guilt choked me. I'd failed their simple rules. Years passed before I confessed. They listened, stunned, half convinced it was a nightmare. But the wrench had vanished from trash. Someone took it. That night stole my childhood sense of safety. I slept with lights blazing for years, convinced the dark hid watchers. Lock every door. Twice. Story 2. One rainy night, a simple act of kindness became a desperate race through darkness. And the sound that still echoes in my nightmares isn't thunder. I was 16, living with my folks in a peaceful neighborhood on the outskirts of Portland, Oregon. Chronic health issues plagued me. Sudden fainting spells, shallow breathing episodes, panic attacks that struck without warning. Worst of all, I required absolute silence to sleep. Even a ticking clock could keep me awake for hours. Rain? Rain was torture. It drummed relentlessly on the roof, each drop amplifying my racing thoughts. That Saturday in late spring, a steady downpour began at dusk and refused to quit. By midnight, I gave up on bed. My parents always suggested walks when insomnia hit. Our street bordered a sprawling, well-lit public green space with winding paths and lampposts every few yards. Safe, familiar. I shrugged into a waterproof coat, left my phone charging upstairs, screens only wired me tighter, and stepped into the cool night. The air smelled of wet earth and pine. Rain sluiced down my hood, soothing at first. Trees bowed gracefully, leaves shimmering under streetlights. Tension eased from my shoulders. After 20 minutes circling the park, eyelids grew heavy. I turned homeward, cutting across open lawn toward the quiet road that bordered our block. Then I saw it, a dark shape sprawled motionless in the street. Long limbs face down, soaked through. My gut twisted. A hit and run? Heart attack? No cars in sight, just rain pooling around the form. Dressed in dark jeans and a sodden flannel shirt, odd clothing for such weather, compassion overrode caution. My upbringing drilled one rule: help if you can. As I approached, cold pierced deeper, rain shifting from refreshing to biting. A guttural wail erupted from the park's shadowed depths. Not quite animal, not human. Wounded, desperate. I froze, scanning tree line. Nothing visible. The sound faded, but adrenaline flooded my system, sharpening every sense. I turned back to the figure, no longer prone, sitting upright, staring directly at me, eyes wide, unblinking. A twisted grin split the face. Man, mid-30s maybe, drenched in wild. Before shock could paralyze me, he lunged upright and charged, knife glinting in his fist. "I'm gonna end you," he bellowed, voice raw over the storm. Terror exploded. I spun and bolted toward the park's thickest woods, wet grass sucking at shoes, slowing me. He followed, splashing, cursing. I refused to lead him home. Better to lose him among trees. Branches whipped my face, lungs burned. I plunged deeper, ducked behind a massive cedar, crouched low, fighting nausea from exertion and fear. Minutes ticked by. No footsteps, no screams, just rain. I waited longer, trembling, then circled wide, emerging blocks away and sneaking home through backyards. I collapsed inside, soaked, shaking, replaying the howl, the grin, the blade. Police later found no trace, no reports. Maybe drugs, maybe madness. But that screech, I'll never know if it lured him or warned me. I still check locks obsessively on rainy nights, wondering if he's still out there, waiting for another kind stranger. Story 3. At 29, after a brutal breakup that left me hollow, I craved isolation. I grew up exploring the rugged backcountry near Boise, Idaho, and knew hidden gems where civilization felt like a rumor. I loaded my pickup with essentials and drove hours to a forgotten bend along the Payette River. A narrow dirt track, no signs, no crowds. Just water, rocks, and silence. Late afternoon arrival brought unease. Two battered trucks already parked at the trailhead, one navy, one faded silver. No owners in sight. Disappointment stung. I'd come to escape people, but the river stretched miles. Surely distance would preserve privacy. I shouldered my pack and hiked downstream 15 minutes until the path narrowed. Ahead, two men fished from rocks, burly, bearded, dressed for cold weather. As I neared, one hurriedly draped his coat over something metallic at his feet and flashed an awkward grin. "Just plinking at bottles," he called, voice too quick, too loud. "Didn't mean to startle you." I nodded curtly and pressed on, unease prickling my neck. His tone rang false, like rehearsal. I chose a secluded nook where pines sheltered a flat clearing. Set up tent, built small fire, read by headlamp as a light drizzle began. Peace settled. Later, wandering riverbank, I spotted one fisherman across the narrow water. Alone now. He raised a hand in greeting. I returned it warily. "What's your name?" he shouted. Stupidly, reflexively, I answered, "Lena." He paused, then lifted what looked like an old instant camera and snapped a photo. Flash popped across the water. Without a word, he turned and vanished upstream. Ice flooded my veins. Why the picture? I retreated to camp, zipped, tent tight, tried to sleep. Memories of the breakup looped endlessly. Regrets, anger, loneliness. Then new sounds intruded. Soft, irregular crunches on wet leaves. Circling, deliberate. My blood ran cold. I always carried protection in remote areas. A compact pistol within reach. I gripped it, heart thundering, unzipped the flap, and stepped into rain. Flashlight beams swept trees. There, half concealed behind trunk, the photographer. Blank stare, empty eyes. In his grip, a short-handled hatchet. Rain dripped from blade. Terror rooted me momentarily, miles from help. No one to hear screams. I leveled the gun. "Walk away right now, or I shoot." Voice steadier than I felt. He didn't flinch. Mumbled, "My buddy Marcus told me not to come, but I had to handle Marcus." Words slurred, distant, no hesitation. I fired once into branches overhead. He jerked, startled. "Drop it, now!" The hatchet thudded to ground. I forced him to kick off boots. Bare feet would slow pursuit. Made him empty pockets, toss gear into open. I hastily packed essentials, abandoning tent, jammed hatchet into my bag, hurled his shoes into underbrush. "Go the other way, don't look back." I kept light on him until shadows swallowed him, then ran, stumbling through black woods, rain blinding, river guiding me upstream. Every snap of twig spiked panic. Truck still sat abandoned when I reached mine. I floored it, tires spinning mud, until cell service returned. Reported everything to authorities. Location, description, the cryptic, "handled Marcus" comment. Never followed up. Don't want to know. That night taught me, solitude can betray you, and some people carry darkness deeper than any forest. I still camp, but never alone anymore.